Hey boys and girls, we're leaving on the big trip in 2 weeks, or when we get the Airstream back from the shop. So you know what that means? We better get the Christmas baking in gear.
Travelogues with Bob and Dogs. Travelogues with Bob and Dogs. Travelogues with Bob and Dogs. Travelogues with Bob and Dogs.
Today we're making saffron bread. It comes from this book, Var Kookboek. When my wife, Laura, was in her junior year in high school, she spent an exchange year in Sweden. She came back with all kinds of Sweden-y ideas in her head, including this cookbook. And it was her tradition every year to make Swedish saffron and cardamom bread. And I eventually got involved in the process and started changing the way we did things, and she finally just said, "This is your project." So it's been my project. The cookbook's in Swedish, but that's okay because I've been doing it for so long. I've picked enough Swedish up to be able to use the cookbook, and I've driven enough Volvos, you know. Vetemjöl, Brahmsvatska. Let's get started. We begin with the soon-to-be liquid ingredients. There's a lot of metric system involved in this recipe, so pay attention. All right. We got 150 grams of butter, 500 milliliters of milk, and we start them to heating up. We're trying to get it to fingervarmt. That's what the cookbook says. And I figured out some time ago that it's 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't want to boil the milk, just want the butter melted and the milk warm. If it's too hot, it'll kill the yeast. Let's move on to the dry ingredients. We start with 900 grams of vetemjöl. For those of you playing at home, that's almost 2 pounds. 1 1/2 deciliters of sugar. Don't panic if you don't have a deciliter measurer like I have here. Just man up and use the metric side of your measuring cup. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And 24 grams of yeast. Torjast. Mix gently. Now we wait for the milk and butter. I always overshoot the temperature and have to wait for it to cool down. This is one of the changes I made, weighing the ingredients. Another of the changes I made was to use the stand mixer. Laura used to stand with this big bowl and a wooden spoon and stir until her arm fell off. I decided to use technology. Next, we're going to toss in our saffron. In order to see how this is made, we'll have to flash back to last night. So I'm filling my mortar with 1 gram of saffron from saffron.com. Look at that. Bonus pinch, just like the last one. I'm making 2 batches of this bread. That will yield 6 loaves. Now we've removed the scale. We add in about a tablespoon of sugar and proceed to grind it up into a powder. And that is about as powdery as I can get the saffron and the sugar. So I have this 3-inch thick Nordic cookbook that also has a recipe for saffron bread. And Chef Högelurge says that there are 3 types of flavor compounds in food. Water soluble, fat soluble, by the way, THC is fat soluble, for those of you who are baking, make sure you use butter, and alcohol soluble. And he says that saffron, the flavor compounds, are alcohol soluble. So what he recommends is this. He says add cheap vodka and let it steep overnight. Already look at the change in the color. This happens to be Tito's. Oh look, I poured too much. Waste not, want not. We take you now back to tomorrow. I don't want to waste any, so I'm going to rinse the bowl out with the milk and butter mixture. Then add the milk and butter mixture. Now we add the milk and butter mixture. Submerge the paddle and mix gently until dough forms. That beats the wooden spoon, let me tell you. We're going to turn it out onto a floured surface. It's a little bit sticky today. It's kind of warm and humid, but it'll all be fine. Look at the color of that, huh? Another change I made was using real saffron threads. Laura used to buy this Spice Island powdered saffron at great expense. It was pretty much sawdust. Then we knead some of the flour into the dough and just get it until it's nice. You know it when you see it. Now we rise for 30 minutes. It's supposed to double in size. I just take their word for it. 30 minutes gives us time to clean up all the mess that we've made so far. Another thing I changed. The cookbook says this makes 2 loaves. And we used to make 2 loaves. They were gigantic loaves. 3 loaves is perfect. I should write to the publishers. Now I'm going to form the loaves. It's going to be a braid or plate. So I need to divide them in 3 again. We begin by making 3 big long tubes of dough. Now the magic happens. There you have it, a nicely braided loaf. And that's going to sit for another 30 minutes. 16 minutes later, looking pretty perfect. Nice, huh? Now I just have to do that 5 more times. Well, that's a wrap. Sure, I'm tired, but it's a good kind of tired. Comment if you would like to see how to make cardamom bread, also a Swedish bread. Don't be afraid to like my video and subscribe to my channel, or I'm coming for you.